Hi and welcome to another video demo of this illustration I made. This is for a game that's called The Tower of Tears, a game made by one guy. It's a pretty cool game. It's a horror game and a platformer. It's very interesting. So I just wanted to do a cover because I like those types of games from back in the day, from the PS1 and PlayStation 2 era. And I particularly like the covers that some of these games had. They were like watercolors or acrylic paintings, so they were very cool. And some of the graphic design that was really terrible, but in the end really cool too. So I tried to recreate that for this game, so it's a fan art. Right about this time, around the PS1 era, I think video game companies started using the graphics from the game, or not for the game, they were pre-rendered as the cover art for the video games. And I think this was done to show that the video game, the systems or the computing was so advanced that they could just use the graphics. So it was just because it was this new thing that was new, like that was different. I don't think it was necessarily better, of course, and I think maybe these video game developers, they knew. It was just like this thing that was new and different. Wow, look at the pre-rendered graphics, crazy. Previously, I mean, illustrators had been doing game covers, especially on the Super NES and such systems. And I think it's such a rich, like, part of pop culture, really. And it ended up being lost. And then sometimes, even in recent modern video games, sometimes a developer brings it back somewhat, sometimes successfully, sometimes not so much. But I would like to see that more, because it doesn't really make sense to me that we know that nowadays the graphics are really good, like they're almost lifelike. So and the people that are going to buy the game, we already know what the game looks like. We already know what the graphics looks like. So, you know, in the Super NES days, people really people knew that the graphics were these 8-bit or 16-bit. They weren't 3D at all. But even on the PS1 era, they were 3D, but people knew the graphics were kind of blocky, like these weird polygon shapes. So they weren't really lifelike. But this, I think the artwork gave it a dimension that was deeper. You know, it kind of rendered this world in a way that it was fantastical, that in a way there was you know, a certain I don't know how to describe that, but maybe even cryptic and mysterious, by just having an artwork describe what the entire game is like, what the mood of the game is like. There's some covers I like a lot. This Asuncia video game, and the game art done by Jun Suemi. It's really cool, and as well as the Castlevania artwork done by Hayami Kojima. Those are also great examples. Obviously, you know, Castlevania was just 16-bit, I think. So people knew what the games looked like, but the artwork served as this just fine presentation of what the world is and what it could be, perhaps. In modern video games, I think that should be used as well, because and it is used in key art, for instance, but also in covers. I think there's a lot of ground to cover if you just use illustrations instead of the video game assets. And video game assets end up being a bit, I don't know, in my opinion, a bit cold, and they're just not well thought out. Obviously, ultimately, I think this was also a way of developers to save money, because you can just, you know, video games were starting to look good, especially in the PS2 era. You could just have, you know, look at the Silent Hill cover, for instance, Silent Hill 2. You can just have pre-rendered 3D graphics with some effects, like some Photoshop crappy filters on it, and there's a cover, I guess, and it works. So you just save money. You don't have to hire an illustrator to do that, or even a graphic designer, probably in a lot of cases. Following the line of thought that you do need to be the change that you want to see in the world. This is what I'm trying to do, my small efforts in doing that. But I would like to see traditional artworks being used in just cover illustrations for books and for video games. That's one of my kind of on a crusade, although not very successful perhaps. At any rate, I was reading this article, I don't know where I read this, but about Guillermo del Toro, who made Hellboy, and he hired Drew Struzan, that is a popular like game poster, movie poster artist, illustrator, and he created an illustration for Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy. It's quite a nice image, but it ended up not being used because the movie producers and the executives, people in the board, just didn't think it would be a good idea and it would hurt the movie. So the illustrator Drew Struzan ended up producing the illustration and it wasn't used. And the director picked it and he said that I love it, this is perfect. And it was no bueno. It wasn't used. So it's not that the illustrators don't exist, it's just that these people making these decisions just think it's bad, and they think consumers will not, in this case for video games, the gamers are not going to enjoy this, or they're not going to want to play the game for some reason. When everyone looks at gameplay and looks at video game reviews, they already know what the game looks like. So it doesn't even make sense, but these people think gamers won't, or people who want to watch films won't go watch the film because of an illustration, because it's a painting. It should be what, a shitty Photoshop? Wow, that makes a lot of sense. But anyways, that's where we're at. And maybe there's been a few attempts, but it's still like pretty much a no-go to produce artwork for these things, even for package design. You just, if you have a doll or toys, you just take a photo of the toy and you put it on the box, which I don't know. So there's no mystery, there's no mystique, anything. It's just everything ends up being literal. Well, and then again, maybe I'm biased because I do like painting. I am an illustrator, but I've been a consumer of these products as well. Like, we've all gone to the theater to watch films, and then I've never been that person where you just walk in and you pick a movie, but you see the posters and it's like they should have a function of describing what the film is. And if it's a fantasy film, well, I do think it would benefit from illustration. Then again, I don't know. Maybe I'm biased. Recently, I bought the Lord of the Ring books, the trilogy, and book design is another big one where everything is just so boring. And I think that in these books I bought, they just have a circle on it. It's just the ring. It's Lord of the Rings. It just has a ring. They have different colors. One is green. Admittedly, this is not the most like high-end, expensive version, but still, like, well, you could do better than just some graphic shit. But this is a problem in book cover design, I guess you could call it, and it's just everything is now like a graphic design thing, and these boring shapes, these boring fonts. It's just everything needs to be clean, and there's never room for ornament, there's never room for frames, there's never room for intricate illustrations or anything. So everything just ends up looking like nothing. These book covers all look like each other. I'm thinking of Rich Dad Poor Dad cover, which is just a guy, and then the font in it. It's just like every book now looks like that. I'm also reminded of the BioShock Infinite cover. It's just a guy holding a shotgun, and I think there was, when the game came out, people were discussing the cover, and it is stupid because I don't think in the game you even see the guy you're playing as, but he's in the cover. It's not everything else. You don't even know what the game is about. What's the game about? Probably a guy with a shotgun, probably shooting up things, right? But you don't even have it's not even a window into what the world could be. And then again, it's not needed because the gamers already know what they're buying, because it's a game and we live in internet era and people just look up stuff. But I think it's these publishers, they want to make you stupid, and it's not so much that they want to make you stupid maybe, but they think you're stupid. They think you're gonna see guy with gun equals fun and shooting, so it's fun, so you buy the game. Okay, this is what these people in the board meeting are saying. All right, so that's my rant for now. I think that's good enough. I think that's a pretty in-depth ranting. I wish things were different, but we're gonna keep going, and things are gonna work out. If you liked watching this video at all, if you watched till this part, thank you very much. And please, the cringe reminder to like and subscribe. That would be very cool. And I'll just let this video play out. You can watch me finish this painting. It's almost done. And God bless.